Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here to continue to talk about research related to my thesis and what I'm studying in school. So last week I discussed system justification theory and its basic hypothesis that people have a motive to believe that the social order is fair and that people get what they deserve. And I talked about how this is often discussed in terms of the hierarchies between different groups within the social order, such as whites, blacks, Muslims, etc. You might, if you want to watch this, you might want to go watch that, because this video might not make much sense if you haven't watched it. So I'll leave a link to it below. One thing I didn't mention last week that Tortoise Streams commented on was that system justification tends to be unconscious. People aren't aware of it. It comes out in their behaviors and their thought processes. So if you ask someone whether they think society is fair, obviously they wouldn't say they think society is fair. I don't think anyone would. The point is that it comes out in their behavior and the way they think. So another provocative, the most provocative hypothesis of system justification theory is actually that people from low status, disadvantaged groups at times will actually show more system justification, will believe that society is fair more than people from high status groups, like white males. And the basis for this this hypothesis that Jost and Banaji make, it comes from cognitive dissonance theory. Cognitive dissonance theory, just to go over it quickly, is I won't be able to give much evidence of cognitive dissonance, but just cognitive dissonance is when a person has one attitude and ends up with another attitude somehow, and the two attitudes are contradictory in some way. Or at least shouldn't logically be held in someone's head at the same time. So the classic study on cognitive dissonance had students write essays, just told students to write essays arguing for an attitude that they previously were found not to agree with. And what they found was that writing that essay made them agree with it more than they had at the beginning. So when people have cognitive dissonance, when they have these two conflicting ideas, they often will change their attitudes in one direction or the other. And so what Jost and Banaji argue is that the system justification motive and the group justification motive, the motive to derive your self-esteem from your own group and to believe that your group is good and things like that, that system justification and group justification motive causes dissonance in the minds of disadvantaged people, not advantaged people, and I'll go through why that is. So if disadvantaged groups, like women, believe that women are good and women are great, just as good as anyone else, and they also have the system justification motive, then when they see the fact that women on average make less money than men, then this is what causes dissonance, because they can't believe that women are great, just as good at everything as men, if they also believe that society is fair when they know that women make less money. So they end up having to resolve that dissonance between the desire to justify this inequality and to believe that their group is good. And what Jost and Banaji argue is that they will resolve it by actually believing that society is fairer even than groups like men, like white men. Because high status groups don't have this dissonance, because they're already privileged. So it's easy for them to derive their self-esteem from their group and to believe that their group is good because they have all the wealth and power. So it's easy for them to believe that society is fair and that their group is good. So that is the most provocative hypothesis of system justification theory. There are others, but that is the one that a lot of ink has been spilled on. So I'm going to talk about one study that two studies that support that hypothesis, and one study that gives some counter evidence, and finally give a bit of to talk about some modifications of system justification theory that have been made in recent years, sort of in response to this counter evidence. So the evidence most often cited in support of system justification theory's hypotheses is, studies done using the implicit association test. So, implicit is just a fancy word for unconscious or something you're not aware of, a psychological process you're not aware of. And so what the implicit association test does is it measures these attitudes people aren't aware of. So I'm going to use men and women as the example. So there are different types of implicit association tests. They are usually used to measure attitudes toward different groups of people. So there's a black-white implicit IAT, there is a Muslim-Christian IAT, there's a homosexual IAT, and then there is an IAT measuring men and women and how much people associate men with pursuing a career, making money, and that sort of thing, and women with building a family, being a housewife, and things like that. So traditional gender roles, basically, is what this IAT is all about. And what it will have people do is they will be on a computer, they will, at the center, they will be told at the beginning that they're going to be pairing words related with men and words related with women with either career-related words or family-related words. So, in a first trial, for example, they will be told that they're going to be associating female words such as lady and miss with family words like family or child or husband or things like that, or marriage, and male words with career-related words like corporation or CEO or something. And so what they'll do when they're actually doing the test, they will see a male-related word pop up, like sir, and they will have to click a button as fast as possible, pairing that word with the career-related word. And after they've done that successfully, a female word will pop up immediately, like lady, and they will have to pair that as fast as possible with the family-related word. And there will be other trials, they do it through several different trials, and there will be other trials where they pair female words with the career-related words and male words with the family-related words. And so, if people on this test are faster to pair male words with career words, female words with family words, and slower in their reaction time in clicking the buttons to pairing female words with the career-related words and male words with the family-related words, this implies that in their mind, they associate being a woman essentially with following traditional gender roles, and male with following traditional male roles of getting a career. So, this implies that they have this attitude that they wouldn't express in normal everyday life. And so what these three researchers did, Brian Nosek, Mazarin Banaji, who I talked about last week, and Anthony Greenwald did, they had men and women rate just on an explicit measure how much they think women should go on to pursue a career or should stay at home and be with a family, and how much they think men should go and pursue a career or stay at home and be a family. And they found basically what you'd expect. They found that women were more likely to say on this explicit measure that they want to go pursue a career, don't want to stay in traditional gender roles, and and men were a bit more likely to say that they associate being a man with going and pursuing a career, and being a woman with staying home and raising a family. But when they took this measure on the implicit association test, this effect was reversed. So women actually associated women more with traditional gender roles than men, even. So this suggests that even though no woman would say she thinks that all women should stay in traditional gender roles, that on this implicit unconscious measure, she does. And men do too. Although women are slightly more likely than men. If you're interested, this is the graph. This is on the implicit association test. This was on the explicit test. So that is men and that is women and men. This suggests that these implicit attitudes, they may not come out that much on a day-to-day basis, but they will have these little cumulative effects where, because women are unknowingly, through verbal and physical cues, feeling like they should be at home, raising a family, adhering to traditional gender roles, rather than going and pursuing a career, it will have this cumulative effect where women continue to stay in those roles and men continue to be more successful at pursuing a career. So that is the first study I want to talk about. The second study is also very often cited, and it uses data from presidential surveys, and in this study, it was a big study, thousands of participants. There's actually 5 different studies, but I'm going to kind of try and summarize all of them. They asked participants different questions about their perceptions of the fairness of the political system. So they asked, for example, in the first study, they asked people whether the government should have the right to limit people's right to speak against the government, and whether the government should be able to limit criticism in the press of it. And other examples, they ask questions relating to whether people think inequality serves some kind of good. And it's questions like this that kind of tap into people's perceptions, how much they justify this inequality, how much they think the political system is fair, and things like that. And what they found across these studies is that lower status groups such as blacks, Southerners, Hispanics, Latinos, people of lower socioeconomic status, whether they're white or black, tended to believe that society was fair, that they tended to justify inequality more. They tended to agree with those items I talked about, like that government should be able to limit criticism. And this was found across several different studies, across several different groups. So this is, again, supporting this provocative hypothesis that low status people will actually justify the system more than high status groups. So these are 2 studies in support of system justification theory, and I've gone on for a long time, so I think I will stop there and make a separate video about the criticism of system justification theory and modern sort of revisions of it. So I'm sorry to cut short, but thank you for watching, guys. Bye!